You might see it before me. I don't know.
Okay, I got it up.
Yep, I just see it.
There we go. Well, good evening, good evening, good evening. God bless you. This is Apostle Rachel Dixon coming to you live from Austin, Texas. You are watching Fatal Distractions. Let's chat. You need to invite someone, share. Tonight, you are in for a treat. I know some of you are, sad from the Super Bowl, but others are getting ready for Sunday, Valentine's Day, the Day of Love. So tonight, I have a power couple on tonight that will be sharing about what's love got to do with it, and especially about relationships. I'd like to welcome both of you to the broadcast tonight. And just introduce yourselves. I won't even do that. Just tell everyone who you are.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Kevin Malone, and
I'm DeWeylla Malone.
all right. And thank you for having us this evening. We kind of like to call ourselves the Purpose Partners.
That's right.
So
that's right. We created a Purpose Partners group where we basically talk about things that that Gretchen has invited us on to talk about tonight. So about love and purpose and us coming together.
That's right.
So we reside
before marriage, after marriage,
and before and after. We reside here in Round Rock, Texas.
Yep.
Well, good. We're gonna go on and get started. Oh my goodness. So I met DeWeylla a few years ago. She the power of God on her life just brought the house down when I hosted a conference in Round Rock, Texas called Hiding Behind the Lipstick. That was my first time actually meeting her. She was already dressed and getting ready to take us into the throne room of God. So I met her, and then later on, I saw she was engaged. Very excited about that too.
I remember that.
Malone. So that's how. So it's been a short journey, but sometimes you don't have to meet people and be with them for a lifetime, but you know by the Spirit of the Lord that connection. So just so excited, and now there is Mr. Malone. So we're going to start off by sharing with the audience, how did you guys meet?
Meg, you want me to know? Yeah, go ahead. Ladies first.
So Kevin and I met a few years ago in 2015. We were I'm a dancer. I'm a praise dancer, and he's a photographer. And so I had just actually moved here about 2 years prior, and I was looking for somebody to do some professional pictures of me. And so that's basically how we met. He came and did my first photo shoot when I moved to Austin, and the rest is kind of history. After that, we kind of ran in the same circles for the next several years.
Yep.
As I was telling Gretchen, he was at a lot of conferences that I was at. So it was like I would always see him. But of course, when I saw him at that time, it was like, that's just the photographer guy,
Yeah, one with the camera taking pictures. So, yeah.
Not looking at him in any sort of other type of way, but oh, that's the photographer guy. Hey, Kevin, how you doing? So that's pretty much how we met.
Yeah, and I remember also, like, I think it was like the year before we started dating. I hadn't seen her in a while, and I think we were at Elder Carla's conference that she had that year, and I was doing photography that year and stuff, and it was the anointing was so powerful watching the academy dance and stuff. And it's like being a photographer that's been photographing, praise dancers for years. When someone has it, you just know when they have the gift and the anointing, because they're just so easy to photograph. And I think after that conference was over, I think we talked a little bit on the side a little bit and stuff. And then, we went on our way. And then I think it was in 2019, I was at a church in Pflugerville, and she happened to walk in on Valentine's Day. And it was such an amazing thing from God, because I was so tired. I think I had an event that weekend before, and I was just physically exhausted. I didn't want to I wanted to rest and stuff. And so the Lord just nudged me and said, you need to get up and go to church. And I was like, Lord, really? I just want to rest and stuff. 'Cause I did one of my, I think it was a 2-day conference and stuff. So I just wanted to rest. And so he's like, no, you need to get up and you need to go. So I was like, okay. So I got up and went, and I walked in, sat on the front row. We had our little Valentine's Day service and stuff. And then when service was over, I stood up and turned around.
And there I was.
There she was, just sitting like 2 rows behind me. And she was like, hey, I know you. And so I was like, okay, yeah. So we started talking, but it was, you could tell something was a little different this time around.
Oh, wow.
Other times that we had met in passing and everything. And so, and we kind of joke about this, but when I was at this church, I was actually kind of in charge of security. And so it was nighttime. So I would always try to make sure all the women got to their cars safely and stuff after church. And so I was outside making sure, everybody got to their cars safe. So we're outside just talking. I'm forgetting I have a job to do. And we're out there talking. And it's like 45 minutes and we're outside still talking.
Right.
And stuff. So, and that was history from that day. So, yep.
It was the twinkle in my eye.
Even though I couldn't see the twinkle.
So prior to that, you never paid any attention other than a praise dancer and you were the photographer.
Right. Other than like pretty much either a ministry or a professional level.
Right.
We never even looked at each other like that.
Never did.
Wow. So you stood outside talking for 45 minutes. So did you ask her out right then, or what happened?
Well, actually, no. We took it like it was maybe about a week, I think. Right?
Yeah.
It was about a week, I think. After that, because I think she invited me.
Or a week or two.
Almost 2 weeks. Yeah, because she asked me to do a photo shoot for her academy because they had their annual ensemble coming up. And so I think at that point when we were talking about doing a photo shoot for the academy, I think at that point that's when we kind of asked each other out, I guess, in a way.
Well,
go ahead and tell the story.
Okay,
you can tell it better.
She
can tell it better than me.
Yeah, we usually can.
Ladies,
Yeah.
Ladies, look, sometimes they need a little bit of a push. So I won't say that I was like the aggressor, but I kind of gave him a little bit of a push to like see if he liked me or not, because I couldn't tell. Sometimes when somebody's just really friendly or really nice, like you can't tell, are they just being nice or do they do you like me or do you like me? Like you want to know, right?
Okay.
And so I kind of gave him a little bit of push. We were talking back and forth, and he would check on me because I had to preach somewhere, and like one day he like checked on me the day after I had to preach, and I was like, wait a minute, this is different, and so I was like, okay. So finally I just asked him, and I sent a little note to him in a text message to say, do you like me? Yes, no, or maybe.
And
just like in elementary.
And so me being me a photographer, I opened up Photoshop and check the yes box and sent it back to her. Yeah. And that was
or you said absolutely, and it was like something that had like all 3 yeses or something.
Yeah, it was all 3 yeses. So I checked them all and sent it right back to her, and that was it.
Yeah.
And stuff from that point forward.
And then he asked me on a date.
Then I asked her out on a date after that and stuff. So
that was nice. That was nice. No, you both were, you've been married a year now. So that means that possibly there were relationships before each other. Mm-hmm. So whoever wants to go, what was that like before that was different from this time?
Well, for me, I can start with this one. Okay. So for me, I did have previous relationships before this one, and each one was like a journey of discovery, I could say. And so the first relationship I had after my divorce was one that was trying to get past being lonely. And I think that's the one thing that people struggle with, and they don't want to admit it, is that, once you get out of a divorce, there's always that moment of being lonely. And some people try to jump right into another relationship, which you really got to take time for yourself and to get yourself in a place where you're well. You may not be completely whole yet, but you can wait to a point to where you can be well enough to be able to handle something like that. And then, with that, I was in a relationship for almost a year. And I realized some things about myself that I need to work on continually. So I chose to end that relationship, at that point, because I realized I wasn't doing myself any good by trying to feel something that I couldn't feel. And it wasn't until I really surrendered myself to God at that point to really get that. So it was a period where I didn't date anybody for a while. And then I had another relationship after that was the real, I guess to be honest, it was more like the dark side of things, because the relationship wasn't godly whatsoever. It was one that was built on conditions and stuff, where I had to deal with people who just wanted me for me and for what I could do and what I, like the access I had, because I was a photographer that had credentials to get into big events and big concerts and meet a lot of celebrities and stuff. So I met a lot of people who wanted to be close to me just to have that kind of access. Yeah. And so I started did a few stints in the fashion industry here in Austin, and met a lot of people during that period. And I had a relationship with a designer that it wasn't godly and stuff. And it took me going through a lot of, I guess you say, strife and arguments to wake up that one day and Lord just said, he's like, oh, at what point are you going to turn back to me?
Right.
Wow. And I didn't realize that I had actually turned away from him. Now, I was in the church at this time period, but it was still, those type of ungodly soul ties that we don't realize that we take on to try to fill a need and stuff, and then trying to break from those. And so once I got to a point where it's like, I'm really just going to wait on God's timing. Yeah. And in that relationship, I got to see how God really moved during that year and a half period and stuff before I met DeWeylla again for the first time. Yeah. So. Wow,
that's something very key that you said. I want to kind of ask you about, I've known of some gentlemen and maybe some women like that as well, that they get out of one relationship and they don't like being alone. They know it's an unhealthy relationship. They may not even really like that person. I've known of someone that just went from person to person. It's like they didn't want to go home to themselves. How would you advise someone to overcome that? Because like you said, you stepped out of all of that. You knew that was wrong, and to see about Kevin pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I would always recommend to people is if you really desire to want what God has for you, you have to make the stand to say, I want what God has for me. And you can't mix it with anything else. You can't try to rationalize it. You can't try to say, well, I'm hurting or this person treats me well, because in both of those relationships I had, they both treated me well. It's just that I didn't realize that it wasn't what God wanted for me, and I couldn't try to force it or try to make a square peg fit in a round hole. It just wasn't going to work and stuff. So at that point, you have to get to the point of really seeking God for that direction. And I try to encourage people that all the time that, hey, it might take you a year, it might take you 2 years, 3 years, 5 years before you get to a place to where you care about yourself. Because at one point I always cared for others that I never physically cared about myself. Yeah. So I always put everybody else's needs above myself. Like I would go without things just to make sure somebody else had something. And then I'm sitting here wondering well, I don't have this, but then there's nobody else to back me up or to do the same for me. So I'm basically doing everything for naught and stuff. And so I had to really take a step back and look at what Kevin needs to do for himself first before I can do anything for anybody else. So
wow, that's so key, because so many times, and it's amazing you should say that, because most of the time I hear that from women, that the woman is putting everything into the relationship. They're just just staying there. But that's good. So DeWeylla, see what you have to say.
Yeah, in addition to what Kevin said, to encourage, your question was, how would you encourage someone that does that goes from relationship to relationship? I can say for myself, I was that person, and I guess the real question would be not only, are you realizing that you're not loving yourself, but how much value, or how much do you value your peace? Right? That's good. Because you're not going to have peace if you're there's the one thing about not wanting to go home to yourself, as you put it, or just be alone, but then there's the other thing with you being attached to these different people and not having peace of mind, because you're always looking for something that God didn't put in front of you, because you chose it, not God didn't choose it for you. And so you're always going to be, as much as you want to be together with somebody, you're always going to be miserable, because you're still going to find yourself essentially alone, because that person can't get you or can't mesh well with you, because God didn't put you with that person.
Right.
So that was the thing that I was finding for me, is that I kept going from this person to that person, this person, that person, because I was like, I don't want to be alone. But yet that person, those people didn't understand me, they didn't get me, they didn't know how to love me, you know, any of those things, because it wasn't who God had for me, because I was just picking. So like he said, it goes back to that soul tie thing. Once you have those soul ties and relationships with people who are not good for you or not supposed to be for you, you kind of start taking on some of their
personalities and
stuff.
traits.
Yeah, some of their stuff. So you want to protect your peace as much as possible.
That's right. One of the things also too with that in that period, once I recognize I need to make that change, I always have kind of this joking relationship with God, you know, because we all know he has a sense of humor as well too. And so when I made that rationalization, I said, Lord, I'm not looking for anybody else. I said, you're gonna have to put a sign over her head and put an arrow that said, this is her. I said, because I'm not looking anymore. I'm focused on doing the work of the kingdom. I said, if you have that, I know you have that spouse for me because you said you did. You know, I just had to be ready on your time. I said, so let me work on me. But if she happened to come across my path, put that arrow above her head, because that her right there and stuff, because otherwise I'm not looking. And that's literally what he did. Literally. So
on the first date,
he put that arrow right above her head, and I was like, had that stone look in my face. But yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Now, what about you, DeWeylla? So do you have children that are you all a blended family? Or
absolutely. I have 4 children, 2 of which actually live with us full time. The other 2 are actually grown, but they like come back home type of situation. You know how that is. And so so the blended family thing, of course, was a little bit of a challenge, as it is with a lot of families. I don't know any blended family that comes together. Everybody's just like, oh, we love each other.
Yeah, it's not the Brady Bunch. It's not always the Brady Bunch. So
so there were some challenges there with that, but even in that, you know, to go back to your question originally, what was different about the past relationships than this one, they even recognized that Kevin was the man that God sent me. You know, as much as they don't want to, you know, listen to stepdad or whatever, they, you know, the day that he proposed to me, when we were dating, all of that, they knew that he was the one that I needed to be with, you know, because they had saw past relationships where, you know, guys didn't treat me right, you know, or, you know, they would, you know, as much as possible, I try to be strong and not show them that I was, you know, sad or lonely or whatever. But of course, there were those times when they caught me crying in my bedroom, or, you know, and they knew that the people that, or the guys that I was coming across, that he wasn't good. And so it even came to a point before I met Kevin that my oldest daughter said, Mom, you don't need a man. Wow. It was that bad, because she would see that what I would go through, that she would say, why don't you just stay single? You know? So, yeah.
Wow.
I applaud you, DeWeylla, because there's so many women, especially, I know there are probably some men too, that are in relationships with and have children, but they're settling. What would you tell them how to not settle? Or not to be afraid of being alone or stepping out, because oftentimes we'll make excuses and say, oh, he's not that bad, or that's my child's father, but what would you advise someone to give them the courage to, I guess, one, to appreciate themselves, to value themselves?
Yeah, I would say pay attention to, you know, we always call them the red flags, you know, but pay attention to those things, because sometimes we can get such in a place, and this was me, so I can speak from experience, we'll get in a place where we want to be with a person so badly that we ignore the fact that they're all wrong for us. You know, we want to be loved, we want to be, you know, just for the sake of saying we're in a relationship, you know, just for the sake of being able to change our social media status to in a relationship, you know, we don't just for that, you know, just so we can take some cute pictures. You know, take some cute pictures and post them just to say we with somebody. And it's like, but on the inside, you dying. On the inside, you miserable. Off of social media, behind closed doors, you don't, like you said, you don't even like that person.
Right.
You know, and so I would say, again, it goes back to that peace thing, having that peace of mind, and really, truly learning to be by yourself, learning to love yourself. I think that was the best experience that I had right before Kevin and I met, because just as he said, once he decided and made up his mind, look, I'm just going to pursue God, because you got to come to a point where you're like, my way ain't working.
Yeah, that's it.
Really,
That's it.
truly, you know, you tried everything, every which way, you know, and it just doesn't work. And so, just like Kevin said, for that year and a half before he met me, or before we started dating, he really said, you know, okay, God, I'm focused on this. And that's what this is so crazy, because God does things well, all things well. And so I was actually going through the same kind of transition he was going through. I was focused on ministry. I was focused on doing, you know, business and all those different things that the Lord put in my mind for me to do and create, instead of chasing, because honey, I was chasing them men for a lot of years. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
A lot of years. And I realized how much time I wasted trying to figure out who gonna be my husband, trying to figure out, you know, who gonna take interest in me, and all this kind of stuff, rather than doing what I was put on this earth to do, and to fulfill my purpose, so that when he does come, then we can fulfill purpose together. You know, so
Wow, that's good. Like I said, fulfilling purpose, and it goes back to finding your purpose. Even as you know, the things I was sharing with you before, because even as a married person, yes, I'm married, but I had to come to a point that I had to really seek after God to see what my purpose was, to see who I was. No longer, you know, wrapped up in being a mom or being a wife, but there's that void until you really get in position and you really give your life to Christ and connect with him, then everything began to make sense, begin to come together, things began to evolve. Because I don't know about you, but for me, I was gauging everything on what I saw on television. And Lord knows it was messed up then, it's really messed up now, especially with the reality show. So I had the wrong conception of what marriage was supposed to be like and life was supposed to be like. But like you said, once I totally surrendered and said didn't really understand, but really all God wanted was a yes. He wanted was a yes, and he began to teach me, because it was like, well, I don't know how this is supposed to work, you know, but okay, I'm gonna start first by saying yes, I'm surrendering my life to you. And then everything else came together. Well, what has it been like? You guys have been married a year. So how has it been? What have you learned? We were talking about vows and so forth.
Oh wow, yes.
We learned how to survive through a pandemic.
Pretty much.
And still married, yes.
Right, because you know we got married in August of 2019, and you know we had the 4-month time period, probably about 5 months, 6 months
before everything
started shutting down and stuff. And so, you know, of course, after we got married, we still did ministry, you know, conferences and everything like that. And then, you know, when everything got shut down, it caused us to kind of, you know, be very close to one another, because we're on, you know, in the house all the time. You know, there's not much you can do other than watch TV and just, you know, watch. I think we watched probably every movie on Netflix and stuff, or Hulu. And so it was just that time period of spending together, which was interesting, because I was sharing with my wife during that time period. This is probably beginning of last year, that, you know, it was funny how God works things out. It's like, because it's like when I proposed, the Lord told me 6 months. Set the date for 6 months, and we prayed about that date, and we both came back with 6 months and stuff from the proposal. So it was like we knew that God had a timetable he was trying to accelerate things through. And so it worked out perfectly, because and I was sharing with her that, you know, it was one of the Jewish customs for marriage was when a couple got married, the husband didn't work for a whole year.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that was one of the most customs that people don't believe, that the husband and wife, they didn't work for a whole year. That was their honeymoon. That was the honeymoon. Their honeymoon was a whole year. And so I was like, God kind of really did that, because I wasn't going into the office anymore. She got promoted right before that time period, where she stayed at home, worked from home constantly at that time for her job. And my job let us work remotely and stuff. So it was like, so we were around each other 24/7 and stuff. So it was interesting, because it allowed us to grow even closer during that time period and stuff. So so some people, when they see us, they think we've been married longer than a year, but you know,
it allowed us to see all of the stuff like that we liked, the stuff that we didn't like. I mean, maybe not all of it. Of course, we're gonna learn each other still as we go over the years, but it was like he said, that time in the house together, just seeing what, just pushing each other's buttons, seeing what, what we can tolerate, what we can't, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So we got to learn that right away. And even to the point that you were making about, we talked about with Gretchen in sickness and in health, because
Right.
we recently both just went through illnesses.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So we got to see what that was
What
like.
that was like, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I knew, I saw
so-
Kevin was sick, so you were sick as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, taking care of him. It's his fault.
Oh, wow.
And I was trying to take care of one of my godmothers and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's how I got it. So
Yeah.
it's like, but
So
yeah.
we said Kobina. Kobina came through this house.
Mm-hmm.
See?
So so after he was down, then I was down, and I'm still feeling a little like disoriented from it all. But just having each other's back and being able to be there for each other has been amazing, actually, because when you are single for a long time
Right.
and you don't have that, it was really great for us to lean on each other during this time.
But I think it was even last Sunday on one of our shows we talked about our experience dealing with COVID, and one of the things that I brought up was my godmother mentioned to me, she's like, it was 5 years since the last time you were sick. 'Cause I don't get sick that often. Very few and far between I get sick, and so she remembered that it had been 5 years since I was sick, and so she was like, I'm so glad my daughter's with you. It's stuff like that. I was like, that's what she called my daughter. She said, because she's like, I remember what it was like 5 years ago. You didn't have nobody to come take care of you. You didn't have anybody. I was stuck in the house for a whole week sick during that time, and I didn't have anybody to come bring me medicine or anything like that and stuff. So this time was much different, and I'm thankful to God that I had someone there during this time period, because so many people went through it this season without a family member.
That's
and
right.
stuff. They were in the hospital. They didn't have an advocate to sit there and just to comfort them and check on them and pray over them and put oil on them and all that kind of stuff like that. They had to do it by themselves and stuff. So this was I think a great time for the covenant to be tested.
Yes.
In a way. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, because I can't even imagine, like you said, because getting married, really getting to know each other, you're spending those years getting to know each other, but my husband and I didn't go through any illnesses at that time, so that's a whole different ball game because I don't know, I'm sure Kevin's not like that, but my husband's all stuffy nose and coughing on everything, and and then me, I don't like to bother them. They like my husband's and my sons, they say that they just kind of shove me in a room and close the door. They don't come check on me.
Oh,
They don't. I told them, I said, and it was so bad. I haven't had COVID or anything, but when I was sick, literally I was in our bedroom with the door closed. My husband wouldn't even come in there to use the bathroom. He was the other bathroom. So I was like, okay, I could have been dead. You didn't come check on me. And his excuse was he didn't want to bother me. No, I think he was afraid I would want something.
Right. Get you a little bail.
Well,
Yeah,
it's important that you do
that's
check, because I tell people, like, we just shared this my experience I had in my previous marriage about checking on you when you're sick, because I remember there was one time where I did have an upper and lower respiratory infection at the same time. It was following a photo shoot I did, and it had messed me up so much. And I was still doing my everything, church and work and all stuff like that, that my ex-wife found me on the floor in the bathroom and stuff.
Oh,
and there was no telling how long I had been there, but I had passed out from lack of oxygen because the infection was so bad. And so I was like, yeah, I couldn't imagine not checking on her if she's not feeling well and stuff, because that's something I don't think anybody want to experience, is their loved one laying on the floor somewhere. And you don't even know, you can't even answer the questions to the doctor when they ask what's going on and stuff. So yeah, I couldn't imagine doing nothing like that.
Wow. Yeah, this has been good. You guys have a show, I know called Purpose. What's the name of your show that you all do?
Purpose Partners. We call it Kevin D Live,
Right.
and then we have it on our Purpose Partners channel on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yep.
So our Purpose Partners page, or a group also, is just about cultivating healthy relationships. And basically we just do little posts and different things, prayers and different things, and talk about our journey, basically, is what it's about, cultivating those healthy relationships through God's word and through sharing our personal experience, sharing our journey, just being very transparent with people, because the whole dating thing, dating in Christ, we didn't know how to do that. Because for many years we dated while we were in the world.
The world's way.
Yeah, the world's way. And so from the moment we started dating, I think it was maybe a couple of months after we started dating, or after we got engaged is when we started. We started doing the show after we got engaged and started like giving people updates on like the things we experienced, what we went through, and how it was different this time compared to how it was when we dated other people. So
how was it different? So how was it different this time?
It was different this time because we both knew the commitments that we made to God, and we didn't want to cross those boundaries before we said I do and stuff. And that was basically sex before marriage and stuff. So, and by making that commitment, some people think it's kind of hard because a lot of people don't know I'm an ordained, minister. And so people knowing that, there's a standard that I have to walk in, and I have to carry myself in a certain manner. I'm still human, but I also have to carry a witness too. And so, and I know that she in her ministry, she has to do the same thing. And so it was almost a perfect opportunity to really carry people through the journey with us and stuff, to show that, hey, you can be all in for God and do it the right way.
That's
and
right.
stuff, and not do it the way the world says you should do it, but just do it the way God has written it that you should do it and stuff, and let people know that the word of God is still true today, and those things can be done.
Yeah.
And I think it was easier for both of us to do it this time, because a lot of times when you get in a relationship, or my experience, and I think his also, was like, one person has the mind to do that, but the other person doesn't.
Right.
So one person is like, we're going to do this the right way. The other person is like, look, I want to do X, Y, Z. When we going to do this, And so both of us had the mindset to do that. And I think that's what made it so great.
Yeah, because people will justify. I've known about individuals, they were both in Christ, but once they got that engagement ring, they were saying, well, technically you're still you're my spouse.
Right.
So they justified what was wrong.
Right. And we didn't do that. we didn't give in whatsoever, because it had been so many years. And just to kind of share my story a little bit, most of my relationships were founded on sex, like pretty much all of them. So it was like, you got to do things God's way to get God's results. It was like all those times that I did that, it never worked out. So why not try this new way? Why not try it this, why not, suffer that flesh a little bit to get that great end result that you really want, that thing, that reward, that God has for you. So this time we were like, absolutely not. It's not going down. We're not doing it. And I think it helped too, because we both had already made the commitment of not being intimate with anyone 2 years before we got married. So both of us had not been intimate with anyone for 2 years.
Wow.
So God had put us both on the same path at the same time. We didn't even know it.
Right. And I think that one of the most important things about that too was with that commitment part, is so that I could be 100% whole and ready for her as well as she is for me and stuff. Because one step about that process that people don't really quite understand is the damaging effects of soul ties. And so during that time period, that's what I was really spending my time, was breaking all those soul ties.
Yes.
Because you can go through a deliverance service and you might get a few of them out and everything like that, but I had to go back over years, like over decades, to get off soul ties and stuff like that, to be ready for the one God called for me and stuff. And so I know there was someone in the comment section made a comment about how do you get whole when you're all over the place. Well, that's how you do it. You have to go through and purge out all those soul ties, so that way you can be your 100% complete self stuff. And so at that point, once I got there, it was easy to do it. It was easy to say, okay, you know what, I'm going home now. I'm not staying tonight. I'm going home. And it was like that. And I had already made that because I was already doing that. So it's like even when I was out of town doing events, I drove back home. So it was like, people were like, I'm buying you a hotel so you can stay tonight. I'm going back home.
Yeah.
It's like, but that's like 2-hour drive. I don't care. I'm driving back home because I'm sleeping in my own bed and stuff. Because that's the commitment that I made to God. I was just that serious about it. So yeah.
Wow, that's good. People don't realize how important soul ties is because like you said something so powerful that even though we give our life to Christ and we love him, we still have soul ties. Because every person that we slept with before we got married, and every person they slept with, all of this is just piled on. That's like piling on layers and layers of makeup that we have to get delivered from. And it's a process, but it can be done because God will do it if you want it to get done. So that is just so key. Now, in your dating, I worked for a ministry, international ministry, where they had the dating. You had to have like 3 people would go out just to. How was it for you guys going out dating?
It was pretty easy for us because we kind of like almost the same things. We both like movies, so we would always go to like a movie or even to dinner and stuff. We ate out a lot, so it was kind of a thing. But you know, after that was all said and done, we would basically go to our homes or something like that. We wouldn't talk on the phone or something like that, or text or something like that. But you know, if she did come to my apartment, you know, she always left at a certain time period and stuff. And so, you know, that way there wasn't that avenue of temptation involved with that. And so that's one of the things. It takes discipline to be that, you know. And I think that's some people are like, well, that's kind of old school. Yes, it is, but it's worth it. Yes, it's like sometimes them old things are very much worth going through it to get the reward that you want and the results that you want.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Wow.
I think that every time he made a decision or I made a decision to say, okay, I'm going to go home now or whatever, it just makes you feel good too. Yeah. Right? It's just like this overwhelming sense of joy on the inside, knowing that you made Daddy, Father God proud because you want to really do this thing as ordained and set forth by God. So every time that we were like, okay, it's time to go home or whatever, it was just like, yes, I made it through another day. On to the next one. But also with that too, a lot of times we spent too with the dating part was ministry was a lot of our dating functions. Yes. And that was probably the thing that was the most different was, you know, she had a lot of the ministry engagements and I would drive her out of town and stuff all the time because everybody kind of called me professional driver. So I would drive her everywhere and stuff. And so that was a lot of times that we spent together was doing ministry work and stuff. And so, and we had a lot of amazing and crazy experiences at a lot of places just doing the work of the ministry and stuff. And, you know, it was, you know, even from places like even walking in and doing deliverance services and stuff. And we just walking into it and, you know, ushering people through deliverance and praying for people and everything of that nature. And, you know, people didn't even know, I don't even think some people even know we were engaged at the time period, but they looked at us like, okay, y'all are a powerful couple and stuff. And it was just so amazing to see how God's purpose really came to pass. And we could see it really at that point. It was like, wow, this is what God really wants and stuff. For us, right? When His purpose and my purpose can come together, and we do purpose together, that is just like amazing. And I tell people all the time, you know, our second date was basically a ministry assignment. You know, so it was just like it was a night when it was 2 nights after our first date, so we went on another date. But he drove me to the hospital because one of my dancers had gotten a bad car wreck. And so we went to go see her in the hospital room. And right then and there, we both prayed for her. And I'm telling you, it was like the most natural thing that I had ever experienced. And that night I was like, man, is this my husband? Like, cause it was like we were supposed to be doing that together.
And it was so amazing because we got back into that area in the hospital. We weren't even supposed to be in that area. But when we got there, it's like the doors just opened up automatically. We weren't questioned. We weren't stopped. It's like God just led us directly to that bed and stuff. And it was like, from that point forward, it was like, boom. It was like, wow. Yeah. Look at this. So,
wow. So, DeWeylla, were you intimidated by, like I said, I remember Kevin came with you as a photographer. You were dancing at one of my Fatal Distractions conferences, and I was seeing him earlier. He just kind of looked at me like, But so were you, how did you feel about him being a prophet? Because I've heard, and I was on when I think it was Apostle Khalid Sanders was calling out a prophet. And it was mentioned so Kevin, so did you know he was a prophet before?
Yes, I actually, well, I actually found out like in the midst of, and so that did make me nervous. Cause I was like, oh Lord, how is this gonna go? How this,
spooky prophets.
right. That's what I was thinking. It's gonna be all spooky and stuff. Like, how is it gonna be dating him? Is he gonna be, saying certain stuff? And so I was all like extra, extra on my P's and Q's. Like, okay, how's this gonna be? So it made me a little bit uptight at first, but immediately, like just at first, immediately I recognized, oh, it's Kevin. Like, because you got to recognize the human side of this person too. It's not, being a prophet or whatever and using the gift that God has given you. There's still that core of that person, right? And so I didn't know, until we started dating that, oh, okay, he cracks jokes. Oh, okay, he likes to do this. He likes to do that. And, before I knew it, I was just like, oh, this is good. So,
and plus, I don't carry myself as being one of those kind of prophets that most people see around today and stuff. Like I said, I like to keep the human functionality of it and stuff. And I never make me being a prophet the thing. Like I'm the prophet. I don't do that and stuff. And so it's easy for me to relate to people if they don't know.
Yeah.
Then when they know, oh, here comes the prophet, because when people know that, they tend to act different.
Yes.
And they treat you different, and it's like it's not the same. It can't be a fluid communication, because people are trying to see, are you reading me, or is the Lord showing you something about me? And it's like that's not me. It's like I don't turn it off and turn it on like a light switch, but if there's something the Lord will have me to say, I will say it. But it's like, but I'm not going to be walking up to you all the time. It's like, hey, the Lord's got a word for you and stuff like that. So because I think people have over sensationalized that today, and it's like where the people don't even want to listen to prophets now and stuff. So I think when a real one does speak, you'll know it and stuff. And so I never wanted to make it seem like or make her feel like, you dating a prophet, you got to watch everything you say with me, because I'm going to read. Because people used to make jokes about that. The hardest relationship you have is one with the prophet, because you can't never lie to him. It's like, but that's kind of silly.
Right.
But, it's still, because, I mean, now
then they know in part. So it's
they
not
know
like
in part. Yeah, so they don't know everything. So they only know in part. So they only know part of it. But, one of the things, too, was interesting is like, I never wanted to really make it an issue with her. Now, there were some times that the Lord might tell me something, but I might say it and just generalize it and stuff, but not say it. And the Lord told me, because there were some times I say, hey, she would tell me she's gonna, I want to do this, and I'm like, yeah, that's gonna happen. I can see that happening and stuff, and that will be it. And then come to find the Lord would do it in like a week or 2, 3 weeks or whatever. It would come back up because the Lord would actually do it, and I wouldn't even tell her. The Lord showed me that. I'm just like, okay, great, and that was it and stuff, because I never wanted to be the relationship to be in a place where it can the prophetic or the anointing would be misused or abused. It was like, there's one of the things we always talk about in the prophetic ministry. You got to protect the anointing. It was always that stage when we were dating that I wanted to protect it and not misuse it, because it can I've seen people in relationships just misuse it to the point where they're looking into their significant other and trying to figure out what they're doing and stuff. And it's like, you're not even trusting God. You're basically trying to tap into something, which is witchcraft, and try to get insight into something that you shouldn't even be looking into.
Exactly.
And stuff. And that brings in mistrust and stuff. So I never wanted that to be a part of our relationship. So, yeah.
Wow, that's good. Well, I can kind of relate to you, because to me, he was Kevin. But then after I heard him say that he was a prophet, then I was like, oh, those eyes, Kevin's eyes, like, okay, don't look at my eyes. He does have those eyes,
Absolutely. And that was the thing for me too. Whenever we were dating, I would look at him. We're sitting across the table from each other, like, okay, is he thinking? I did think that while we were dating a couple of times. I was like, is he reading me, or is he thinking something, or is he getting a vision, or what? But it wasn't. He made it so easy, right? To love and to date him. Like he said, he was very conversational, laughed at a lot of stuff. We talked about a lot of the same things. So he made that so easy that I could never tell if that's what, if he something. And he wasn't, like he said, he didn't do all those formalities like the Lord said, like, he didn't do all of that. We do that when we're in the presence of other people and stuff, but not to each other. Like, we're just, okay, I feel the Lord saying blah, 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 whatever. Okay. Bless you. Love you.
Oh, that's good. I know my husband's a prophet, and sometimes I'll say, okay, okay, what the Lord, because he'll have this weird look sometimes. I said, well, what the Lord just tell you? And he'll say nothing. So I know it's between him and the Lord, and he probably told him something, but he always said me nothing. So like, oh
Yeah, I do the same thing too. I do the same thing. But you know, there are times where I have to protect my family, where the Lord might show me something, and sometimes even the kids get upset when I do this. I'm like, no, we can't go, and I don't tell them why. It's just the Lord might show me something, and it's mainly to protect my family and stuff. So I don't want to put them in danger. But I will share this though. There was a time when we were dating and we went to Houston for a ministry assignment that she had, and on the way there, it was kind of weird because I had to stop to the restroom like 2 or 3 times before we made it from Round Rock to Manor. That's a short trip. So 3 times I had to stop, and it was like about that 3rd time I stopped, I had to sit there and pray, and the Lord showed me that there was a witch that was present at this place, and that she knows you're coming. And so it was like I got back in the car and I told her, hey, I think DeWeylla was her oldest daughter was with us, and I said we need to pray right now, because before we go any further, we need to break this before we get there. So she did get to experience the other side of the prophetic ministry and dealing with the warfare that prophets deal with. And so I was thankful that the Lord allowed her to walk that journey with me and stuff, to see how it is, so you won't be afraid of it. And then when we got to Houston, sure enough, she experienced it at that point. And then, you know, we was both able to pray before she ministered. And then the person who was operating in the spirit got so agitated they left, and it was like the whole feeling in the house shifted and stuff. But it was just that powerful. And so, you know, with that, you know, I do share those things and experiences with her and stuff like that, so she'll know and recognize it too, you know, whenever the Lord has her to be prompted for that and stuff. So
well, that's good. I'm telling you, it's exciting. Like you said, living with, you know, a man of God, you know, and some of the things, like you said, my husband and I have experienced, and I'm the character that I was asked all the questions, but yeah. But this has been so good. All the questions that I asked, you told me that it's in a book you wrote. So what is it that you all have written?
Yes, absolutely. You can hold the book up.
I'll hold it up. Yep.
So we have our book.
The hand model.
Yeah. So this is The Journey from Me to We. We published it a couple months ago. In December. And it's based, everything that we just really talked about is in the book. We talk about our whole stage of dating, the things that we encountered before we dated each other, when we were dating other people. And like basically it's basic principles for Christian dating, because we didn't know how to do this thing, because we weren't used to doing it, you know, in God. And so we just wrote some things down that the Lord prompted us and gave our experience of the different things. It talks about, you know, how we self-sabotage, because I self-sabotage a lot of relationships
and stuff.
You know, and just different things that we experience as far as having common interests with each other. Is that something that you need to know, or is that something that you need to have? Do you have to have common interests with somebody for them to be your spouse? You know, so different principles that we wrote down in the book, and you can find it on Amazon.com, or you can go to our Purpose Partners page on Facebook and click Shop Now, and it'll take you right to the link.
Well, this has been so good. I'm so thankful. Like I said, Purpose Partners page, and that's a book that any of you that are dating or thinking about dating or in a marriage, and I'm about a book because I want to see what happened the right way. Because right now I have 2 sons that are single, so they may not want to read it. So I mean,
well, I put it like this: I would say it's an easy read. It's not a very difficult or detailed to read and stuff, because we try to make it to where it's anyone from a teenager on up to an adult can get it and understand it. We try to make it that simple and stuff. It's a lot of good biblical information that's in there that will help you in these areas. And this just comes from experience of practical experience when we were going through it. How can I relate this? Because, you know, some pastors don't preach about it from the pulpit. And so it's like, how can I make this from the Bible relevant to my life? And I think this is a good one for anyone who's dating to understand how to do it God's way and stuff. So that's what we were going for. That's how the Lord gave it to us. And in itself, even writing it was the purpose of God for this and stuff,
Yeah.
because, DeWeylla has written 2 other books already. This is my first one in writing, but, even the purpose that he put together allowed us to present something that was, that would cost, thousands of dollars to do it, through major publishing, but we self-published it ourselves and stuff. So, with God giving me the gifts over the years of being a digital publisher and all the things that he's gifted me to do is stuff, it was put me with a wife that's an author. It can help us put this thing together and put it out in such a great format that it's mind-blowing when you look at it. So it was basically all done between the both of us and stuff. So yeah.
Wow, that's good. And if anyone wants to connect with you guys to share, like on conferences, do y'all have any virtual conferences coming up, or what do you guys have coming up?
Absolutely. So we have next week, actually, February 15th through the 19th, we're doing a prayer week. It's praying for marriages and relationships. So that's also on the Purpose Partners page. So it's the Facebook. Just go to facebook.com/Purpose Partners @Purpose Partners. And it will be available for you to watch. It's each night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we'll have different guests that are going to be coming on to pray for marriages. And we're going to have a couple of guests that are also going to be praying for the unmarried, because we want to include them as well, because of course, we were there not too long ago. So we want to include them as well, because we're finding that it's been a real hard time on relationships during this pandemic. So we want to pray for that. So that's coming up next week.
Yes. And so what's the best way if someone want to connect with you guys? Are you on all the social media outlets? How do they connect with you?
Absolutely. So I'm available both of us are on Facebook, Instagram. I'm available on social media, Facebook at DeWeylla. I also have Fire Dance Academy, so you can reach me at Fire Dance ATX. So I have another business page that's Fire Dance Academy. Everything is Fire Dance ATX. My YouTube page, all of my channels are Fire Dance ATX. And then Kevin?
Yeah, then I have my Facebook, which is Kevin DK Malone. And so that's where you can find me there. I'm also on my business page for MDK Productions, also production and photography is also on Facebook and Instagram. And so those are the areas we're at right now. So
and together, Purpose Partners.
Yeah.
Purpose Partners. Well, that is so good. I am so thankful. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Those of you that are listening, those of you that are watching the replay, just want you to connect with them. I mean, power couple, they're going places. You better catch them now while you can, because they're going places. I'm telling you, I just see it. So, but you guys be blessed. Kevin, do y'all have any closing remarks or prayer, anything you want to do before we close out tonight?
Oh, no, I just want to thank you for having us on tonight and stuff. We really appreciate you and everything. And just the time with you and talking about our journey was just a blessing and stuff that we see God is still, even in the midst of pandemic, he still has a message for people, especially married and single who want to be married. So thank you for allowing us to come and share our story.
Yeah.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. You've been watching Fatal Distractions. Let's chat with your host, Gretchen Dixon. Have an amazing week, and we'll see you again next week for another Power Couple. Have a great night. Good night, guys.
Good night.